What's going on, y'all? Today I am back to give you guys my 100-mile review on the ASICS Megablast. So I finally put 100 miles on the shoe and I'm ready to give you guys my final thoughts after these 100 miles. So as always, we are going to start off with the outsole of the ASICS Megablast. I always like to start off with the outsoles when talking about running shoe performance, especially after doing 100 miles in a shoe, a more long-ish term review than I typically do, around 30 to 40 miles. So I like to see how the tread on the outsole wears up. And honestly, the ASICS Megablast probably has the most durable outsole that I've personally experienced in an ASICS model. I do have the Nova Blast, the Magic Speed, as well as the Super Blast 2s. And I think that this outsole is definitely a little bit more durable than all of those outsoles. Don't exactly know if they use the same rubber compound, if the outsole is the same thickness, or all those details, but I can say that after 100 miles, I feel like these are holding up the best out of all of those shoes. Now, don't get me wrong, there is still some wear in the high wear areas, like in the forefoot, the middle of the forefoot. I do see the outsole starting to wear down quite a bit, but that's to be expected with 100 miles, especially with me being over 200 pounds and 6'1". I am a little bit of a heavier runner, so my shoes don't last as long. But overall, I would say that this outsole is holding up decently well and definitely is one of the better options if you're looking for durability in an ASICS running shoe. Now, when you compare it to other brands and other durability, I feel like the durability on the outsole of the Megablast is kind of average, especially when you consider the price point of $225, which is astronomical. I think that you can find probably more durable outsoles than this one. So if you're looking for the most durable running shoe of all time, then these are probably not it, but these are definitely pretty durable in my experience. Now let's talk about the traction experience in the Megablast. Now that I've ran a little bit more in the shoe, I do think that it's definitely like not the best, but it's also not the worst. I would say it's kind of middle of the pack when it comes to how it sticks to the ground. Initially, when I had these first in hand, when they were a little bit newer, they were very tacky and sticking to the asphalt very well. But as I put more miles on the shoe kind of lost a little bit of that sticky feel, as I would kind of like expect. Like, it's not a surprise to me that it kind of lost that sticky feel. But I wouldn't say that the traction was bad by any means. I just don't think it's great. I do live in California, so I run in pretty ideal weather conditions, mostly on the road, so I can't really speak to, snow, rain, heavy thunderstorms and whatnot, different weather conditions. I typically only ran when it was pretty dry. Maybe it was a little bit wet from street cleaning and whatnot, but these held up decent for my use cases. Now, moving on to the midsole, which is kind of the talk of the town for the Megablast. I feel like ASICS is really trying to mix things up using different names for different foams, creating different lines of shoes and whatnot. And the Megablast is kind of the first of its kind. And this uses a full length FF Turbo 2 or FF Turbo squared midsole with 45 millimeters of stack height in the heel, dropping to 38 millimeters of stack height in the forefoot. So you do get a ginormous stack height in this shoe, and you don't get any plate, which is actually pretty nice if you're not a huge plated shoe fan like I am. I typically only save the plated shoes for either really hard workouts or like really fast workouts, and even then I sometimes wear unplated shoes, and then also for race day. So I personally maybe am the target demographic for a shoe like this, where you get a very high stack height, so a lot of impact protection, but you still are training all the muscles in your body when it's non-plated. And it's a little bit better, I would say, for the paces that I typically run, which I'm a little bit on the medium to slower side. I would say, like, marathon pace for me is around 9 minutes per mile, and my easy runs are anywhere from 9:30 to 10, or 10 to 10:30 depending on the weather. So overall, how did this cushion setup fare after 100 miles, as well as how did it feel? Did my use case in this shoe change at all? Overall, I really still do enjoy this setup. I don't know if I like it more than the Vomero Plus's Zoom X setup. That personally probably is my favorite non-plated super high stack height shoe. But this setup is a little bit better if you want to push the pace a little bit. I just feel like it doesn't have the same level of impact protection that the Nike Vomero Plus has. That's just my opinion and my experience, but this shoe is a little bit more firm, a little bit bouncier, and it gives you a little bit more ground feel. Even though there is such a high stack height under your foot, you do feel like it you do feel a little bit more ground feel in the setup. As for impact protection, the impact protection is very, very good, especially if you maybe are a lighter runner. I can't really speak to that because I'm a heavier runner. I feel like this impact protection is going to be plenty and it's going to save your legs. You're probably going to be able to increase your weekly mileage quite a bit in these, and your body will probably thank you for wearing these. And overall, it's just a fantastic setup. I mean, for the price point of $225, I would really hope that this is one of the best on the market. And in my experience, this is probably a top 3 midsole on the market when it comes to non-plated daily trainers, and also probably number 1 for the price. So with that being said, I mean, I'm going to touch a little bit on stability as well as durability of this midsole setup. So stability of this shoe is not like the best, but it's also not the worst. As I said, it is a firmer setup than, maybe Nike's Zoom X in the Vomero Plus. So you are getting a little bit firmer of a midsole, as well as it is a pretty wide setup, even though it is tall. So if you're used to running in high stack running shoes, these should be perfectly stable for you. But if you're not, or you need, an overpronating shoe or a stability shoe, this probably is not the best setup. I probably wouldn't recommend it because of that high stack height. And it's still, I mean, I do say it's firm, but it still is pretty soft when you are running slow. Stability is decent, but not the greatest by any means. So moving on to durability of this foam, I feel like it's pretty much the same as when I got it first out of the box. I do notice that when I run a little bit longer in the shoe, so I've done a couple of 20 milers in this shoe, I do notice at the tail end of those longer runs, I feel like the foam is not bottoming out, but it just doesn't feel as responsive as it did at the start of the run. So that's maybe a personal experience. As for the use cases that I've been running in the shoe, it hasn't really changed since I did my initial full review. I still do like this for longer runs. I do like this for maybe tempo, like 5-mile runs where I run a little bit faster than I normally do. I don't love them for recovery runs. Like, they definitely could work for recovery runs if you want to use this shoe for recovery runs, but I feel like this shoe kind of wants me to go a little bit faster than my 10 to 11 minute per mile recovery pace. So there's that. I mean, I think having a faster shoe to do recovery runs is probably better than having a slow shoe to do fast runs, but that's just my experience. And overall, I do still think that this setup is one of the most versatile on the market, and it's bringing something to the market that we typically don't really see, which is a non-plated do-it-all type of shoe with a very high stack height. I mean, I know it's kind of a trend nowadays and every brand has their own version of it, but I think that the Megablast, out of all the ones that I've tested, is one of the better ones when it comes to the midsole setup. Now, let's talk about the upper of the Megablast. I think that this is the Achilles heel of the shoe. Even with 100 miles on the shoe now, I really thought that this upper was going to break in and it was going to get a little bit more comfortable than it was right out the box. But I can wholeheartedly say that this shoe still feels a little bit plasticky when it comes to the upper. It feels a little bit rigid, but it is extremely lightweight and it is decently breathable. So you are getting a little bit of a trade-off, and it does provide decent support and decent fit. So what kind of gripes me about this shoe is that the setup in the the setup in the toe box kind of pinches my foot. It's only specifically on my left shoe. That has not gone away since I got the shoes, and I put 100 miles on them, and it still hasn't really gone away. Hasn't really caused any blisters or anything crazy like my toenails falling off, but it's just something annoying that I feel like shouldn't be there for a shoe priced at $225. I also do think that they could have made this upper still as strong and as supportive as it is currently, but with softer materials. Like, I feel like it's just a little bit too plasticky for me. I did notice that, with this year's lineup of ASICS, the meshes kind of got a little bit more synthetic and a little bit more plasticky. Like, that's why I didn't really like the ASICS Nimbus 27. The Novablast 5s is kind of on that edge versus, the Novablast 4 was a little bit more cloth-like. The Novablast 5 feels a little bit more plasticky. The Magic Speed 4s that I personally have, they don't feel like plasticky, but the mesh doesn't feel like I don't know, it doesn't feel like as soft of a mesh, So I think that that's just the design language that ASICS went for this year, and I'm personally just not the biggest fan. It's not a huge deal, like it didn't cause any blisters, it didn't cause any too big discomforts, but it was just something that I didn't feel was super premium, especially for the price point of $225. Especially, I gave it a shot, like I wanted to break in the upper and whatnot, but it didn't really break in for me personally. As for fit, I still went true to size. I mean, I still have the same pair, so went true to size, and I feel like that is the correct size. But if you have wider feet, you might want to go up half a size, or I don't think they make these in a wide option, just because I feel like the upper's a little bit unforgiving. I will say that the shoe fit a little bit more snug when I I first got it, but now that I've broken in the shoe, the upper's still a little bit stiff, but I feel like the fit has loosened up just a touch. So if you can try the shoe in store, I mean, it's such an expensive shoe. I would definitely recommend trying it on before you buy. But yeah, heel lockdown and just fit overall in the shoe was really good once you tied your laces tight. I personally do the runner's loop, and I got like 90 to 95% heel lockdown, good enough for me. And overall, just I'm not a huge fan of the materials, but they're there and they do the job. Again, no blisters, no like bleeding or no real pain, but it was just a little bit of discomfort, especially for the price point. I was just expecting it to be really comfortable, like a lot of the other uppers that ASICS makes. So overall, after 100 miles in the ASICS Megablast, do I still recommend the shoe? Or I guess in my full review, I didn't really recommend the shoe, but I would say that my thoughts have kind of stayed the same. I think that for $225, I do think that there is a select amount of people that are willing to pay that price and have the shoe. It is one of the better performing shoes on the market. I wouldn't say it's like the best performing shoe on the market, maybe due to that upper, and maybe, I don't know, just due to the midsole feel as well. I don't know if it's worth that $225 price point, but from an impact protection perspective, as well as what it gives you, you know, a little bit more of a versatile shoe. If you want to use this on race day, you want to use this on all your long runs, all your training runs and whatnot. I do see a use case where 225 is worth it if it's replacing two shoes in your rotation. But then again, we don't know how that outsole is going to hold up, if it's going to last the same amount as two other shoes. Especially if you buy them on sale. So I think for $225, it's a running shoe enthusiast shoe still, like myself. And then it's also maybe an elite runner shoe, or like someone that takes running really seriously and is willing to invest the money in their setup or their rotation. I think that it's still worth the price. But you know, for the average everyday runner, like if I wasn't doing shoe YouTube, then I personally wouldn't recommend it for myself, or I would probably just save the money and just get the Vomero Plus. Or just get another daily trainer. I mean, it's not going to maybe be as comfortable or as versatile, but my running abilities do not match, I guess, or don't get the most out of this, what this shoe is capable of. So that's just my personal opinion. Obviously, you can spend your money however you want. If you have the 225 or money is no object, then the ASICS Megablast is a fantastic, fantastic running shoe. I just think that there's better value that you can get there out there on the market currently, but that's just also my personal opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below how you guys have been liking your Megablast. How many miles do you guys have on it? Do you agree with my thoughts after my 100 miles of the ASICS Megablast? I'd really love to know your guys' thoughts. And if you guys have any questions that I might have missed on the Megablast, let me know and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. So with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next video.